Well, hello and happy Tuesday, everybody. It is Araya AndaRa, the Dragon Lady, coming to you live. And wow, I looked at my clock right before it flashed live, 3, 2, 1, go. And it's 11:11 on my clock. Always love those synchronicities and alignments. I have so many going on right now. And I also have vibrant energy. I don't know if you can feel it. It's going to be blasting through here from my dragon self because I have been being engrossed within a new group sphere, started around 3, 4 this morning, of real activation into the new group that is starting quantum flight today. And I know every group is unique and powerful in its own right, and every time I start a group, it always amazes me how it comes together, the geometries of it, the individual characteristics within, and the whole purpose. And so I'm excited to get this group going. Lots of interesting alignments with information as I tapped into that group sphere this morning. And interestingly, what I had mentioned in a post last week to someone who had commented on a video, something that I had mentioned briefly, and they had a question about it. I'm going to dive into that today, and it's about resolving the inner conflict that many of us go through who maybe were raised with God, raised in a Christian background, and then the dragons start showing up, where the dragons have been around, and we have this unresolved peace within us where we always love dragons, but the church, the religion, the belief systems, whatever we had in place from our surroundings, negated that, or was trying to negate it and shut it down as dark, evil, bad, whatever terms were there. And how do we move through that? And I want to share my story of that, but I find it interesting because that Christ energy is very much present in the group sphere today. So I find it interesting that I even had this discussion touch on in a call yesterday with the last person that dove into the quantum flight group, who was part of that group sphere, got called in very quickly right at the end with awareness of it, and this is my next step. And this came in again. So this is the third time in a row, and I've got 3s and 4s, 33, 44 really hitting today. And there's a lot of power in that energy field. And we've got diamond and rainbow dragons. So even though it's the group sphere of the new quantum flight group, everybody that's touched into my sphere, that's part of my dragon family, so that's all my different, the last quantum flight group that's still together. It's my dragon hearts that have finished the last 4 years of programs that we still meet. We had a meeting yesterday, once a month, and everybody in this, for the Love of Dragons family, because you are part of my energy field and what I hold, everything touches you to some degree. So you may not consciously know what work is going on, but you will align with some of the information I share over the weeks. You will be feeling this big hit, especially if this has been something in your past, in your upbringing, about this resolution into belief systems. Because that's all they are. They are belief systems and structures, and your heart knowing will align you. So my own journey, going back to my youth, I really was in a deep desire of my own to go to church, to memorize passages of the Bible, to have go to Bible study trainings, go to be part of youth group. I got a lot out of that, and I think my parents initially introduced me to the church, but then they didn't keep going. It really wasn't their routine or their thing. And for me, I just loved it. There was something within me that was trying to discover a deeper energy within it. And I see it now as an adult, as someone who's gone through a lot bigger exploration journey and discovered all of the different religious sectors out there, and found the weaving and found deeper truths within and through that. It's a starting point for a lot of us. And it doesn't matter which your starting point was, there's going to be this kind of a conflict, whether you're coming from Hindu or Islam or Buddhism. When the dragons show up, there may be this issue of, this doesn't quite align with the belief system I was given as a child. So me going and being a big part and active in my youth group and really being drawn into that, Mother, Father, God was always for me as was Christ, an anchor. It was something that was just always present as a knowing. And reading the Revelations as a child, I always knew that's in my lifetime. That's why I'm here. There's something about that that I recognize and know is going to happen in my lifetime. And that's what we're in now. We're in that the ascension process, which is the end times. It's that revelation. And even the term revelations being the revealing of the game, the revealing of the system, the matrix, the structure of reality that we have. It's being revealed. So when I went through, even after I was working with the dragons for a good 6 or 7 years already, the book had come through, my healing work had come through. It was not a daily constant part of my life, but it was very present. I wasn't doing it full time. I was not a practitioner or working with people, but I was still on a spiritual path, and I was seeking lots of different information. And around 2012, I finally had that inner point of too much external information coming at me over years from different teachers, and I knew that something within me had to find its way to weave together. So I literally put everything on the back shelf. I said, I'm just going to live. I'm going to be human. I'm going to be only involved in my 3D life right now. And I'm going to just let these ideas, these beliefs, these openings, these awarenesses, these perceptions, all of these ideas that have been coming in and coming together, I'm going to let them percolate. Percolate, if you're not sure what that word is, the way they used to make coffee, or they do in camp, is a percolator, where you get the water boiling and you let the bubbles rise up and work their way through the coffee grinds, and it percolates until there's that flavoring all the way throughout, until there's resolution or completeness. That percolating is that bubbling up to saturate. That's the word that I'm looking for. It's bubbling up to saturate. So I was letting all of the different teachings that I'd been exposed to over the years, and my own knowing and remembrance with the dragons and the archangels, percolate. And I just said, be in the background for now. Be in the background so that I can let my subconscious and unconscious aspects work through and weave them together so that they pop out and make sense to me, and I have my bearings as to how they fit together. Because a lot of the beliefs I had about God and Christ would not allow the dragons to be a loving, benevolent force in the world for good, would not allow the creation story that I'd been trained with with the memories that I was having of being part of a team that was involved in witnessing and creating and holding space for what the breath of life, what that force of creator and source was putting into the universe. And so when I let it sit, and it took a couple years, it literally took, and that was when I was, I had a 3-year-old. I was very enmeshed in full-time mom stuff. And it gave me the space to just focus on that so that all this other stuff could percolate. And sometimes we need to do that. And it's okay to take those breaks and go, whoa, there is a lot of stuff here that I just am getting confused about. I'm getting unclear on my path forward. And it's not going to take years at this point in the journey. It's going to take maybe days or weeks where you just set it in the background and just let it percolate and hold your intention with your guides. Say, let that weave together so that I have the answers to my questions. And my deep inner questions were, how do God and the dragons fit together? How can I resolve in myself these issues of different belief systems, and one that does not allow, the other that allows all? And wow, how do I merge those together? And what was beautiful is at one moment, it finally popped through this awareness and this realization of, well, Mother, Father, God created everything. That means they created the dragons. And of course, if you are very, very ancient, as God is infinite, so it stretches infinitely in both directions, then there would be some very ancient original creations that outside of a timeline, all these creations there, when we are in a timeline, we would look at with a history or a sequencing Whereas when we're out experiencing that in the higher realms, there's not necessarily a sequencing. It's all present as potential. So that's where I had this final realization of, oh my goodness, the dragon realms were a part of that creation. And why wouldn't Mother, Father, God, in order to experience itself, be creating things that are going to have different levels of feedback to self? That the dragons would give this feedback because it's a creature that, or a being that's created with X, Y, and Z, and these characteristics, and not these, and humanity is created with these, and star beings are created with these, and all the dragon realm or the rainbow realm beings are created with these characteristics, and all of those are actually showing God itself through these different forms. And in that realization, I had a really profound awareness maybe a year and a half ago, in session with someone, and ended up coming and being part of the program work I was doing, because there were mantids showing up. Okay, so we have a lot of experiences or awareness of what we consider dark or negative, unloving entities and beings. So there's reptilians, there's crocodiles, there's spiders, spider beings. If you've ever encountered them, they're a trip. And mantids. And so the mantid beings, like a praying mantis, massive, human size or larger, and they look like giant insect beings. There are a lot of people that have experienced them, usually with a negative connotation. Most of the mantids have been part of those like scientific experiment things where people have memories of being on some kind of a operation table or under spotlights where these creatures or beings are over them and they're extracting DNA or they're doing different things on them. Not always pretty memories, but this mantid had come into a session and I had my, like, not hackles, but I had my awareness up originally, and it was like, what's going on here? And he was such a beautiful being and had come into so much love, and there were angelic beings around, and there was just this real community and an awareness of him having expanded, and I could feel the light in him. And he shared something with me that he was leading his race forward. That he was one of those, oh, I'm getting full body tingles on this, that there's quite a few of you listening today that need to hear this story. So he had the ability to share with me his journey over eons through different systems, trying to seek what he was not, trying to seek and learn about love, because he encountered beings like angels that came into systems, and they were so bright and they were so different. And he was able to share with me, he says, you know, we were a race. We were a creation from Mother, Father, God that was created with, if you imagine like in the human heart, say on a scale of 100, being 100%, maybe the human heart is capable of 80%. Let's say 80 out of 100 points on a love scale. Let's say a basic human blueprint format is capable of that. Maybe it's different. I'm just throwing a number out there so you can have a relative term of what is infused as a characteristic potential inside of a being, a race, a creation of God's. So humanity is created with this. The dragons were created with 99.9. The mantid race, what he shared with me, and it really opened my heart into an allowance to see and perceive the differences and why certain beings we encounter are a certain way. And he says the mantids were created, if you will, with the tiniest speck of love, with maybe a 1 or 2 on a scale of 100. And I'm putting that number on now. He didn't actually say that. He just showed me, he said, this tiny little heart chakra and a big wisdom chakra, medium-sized power chakra. And if you can imagine that the journey home to Mother, Father, God is always about love and expanding the heart chakra, expanding into that. And the greatest you can expand is to something like this. Then you have a lot bigger journey or task to seek out and find a way to enhance and enlarge what you are capable of. And in so doing, that feedback of that tiny little heart chakra in expanding to its fullest capacity and then beyond is actually feedback to Mother, Father, God of itself and its ability to find its own divine love back, to find itself again. And this mantid was actually leading his race. I'm getting that full body goosies again. He was leading his race of beings at the forefront, and there were others like him. He was able to sort of give me an idea of where they're interspersed, and they're out learning. He was in the angelic realms, and he was learning from them, and he was learning about healing, and he was able to come and interact with this particular being because they were okay with a mantid guide. They were trusting and okay with it. And so he was able to be assigned as a guide and learn that service to others. And as he expands that, it expands the potential in the entire collective. We talk about that with humanity all the time. We talk about our ability as light workers being here to hold a framework to expand into the collective. It's not a new term for you guys. So if you just apply that across these races of beings, so it could be to the crocodilians, could be to the reptilians, it could be to the spider beings, whatever other beings you've encountered that maybe feel the least loving possible, it's because they're on a spectrum and they were created by Mother, Father, God as well, and maybe have a harder journey or a more intentional journey to get to where we even started. That in itself will open your heart to compassion and empathy and allowance or awareness of the goodness in all. And for me, that was another, just like ink on the paper or ink in the well of information for me when my awareness is, yes, the dragons, they're part of God, as are all these other beings, and they might not have the love capacity that we're familiar with in the angelic realms, who can hold, same as the dragons, like 99.some%. That's why we feel the dragons as being so loving. We're able to feel that service to others vibe that they put out, that magnificent unconditionality, lack of judgment. Well, they started with, if they're one of the first creations, and it's in the image of God as far as capacity to love, all of that, every creature is made in that image, coming from a strain of Mother, Father, God, in their own experimentation in what characteristics can find their way home. Mother, Father, God is never turning their back on any one of us. Why would they turn their back on any of their creations? At some point, all those beings that are considered in darkness or evil or playing out their game of darkness here in duality, it doesn't mean they're playing that in another realm. Their soul is experiencing all kinds of things. So that was my resolution, and it allowed memory to open up then. And I think I've shared before that I accessed this point where I could remember back, and the further forward we go on our journey, the higher vibrational you get, the further back up that vibrational chain you can remember. Because those of us that are light workers drop down from higher octaves to be here. Which means as you raise up to those octaves again, or the capacity to contact and connect in with them, you are able to remember back to those octaves. So after, it's been in the last few years, but that journey in 2012 to about 2015 or so, that ability to let it percolate and finally come into resolution for me, where it was woven within and I got the clarity, and my guides were able to pop it through into my consciousness of Mother, Father, God created everything, which means she created the dragons, and that's where the tie-in is. And the dragons are in service in this way, in this realm that God created. The dragons have agreed to hold it. And I remembered being in that space somewhere in the universe, outside actually in the multiverse, where all the dragon commanders and the dragon king were together. And in the room, there had just in that moment been a unanimous agreement, a yes, when we were invited to be the ones to hold for this universe, to hold the grids. So allowing that resolution wherever you're at with your journey. It was interesting that this has come in three times now. It came in last week, came in yesterday, and then it was present again this morning energetically with the information in the group sphere that I'm starting today with Quantum Flight. So that to me is, when they come in threes, pay attention. This was needed to be discussed today. There are those of you that are coming into that point of needing to find resolution. Maybe it's not with a Mother, Father, God piece, but it's with another big piece where you have these belief systems clashing of what you're learning here and facing with the dragons and what you're learning here and facing from another system that you have believed in and know to be true, and how do they fit together? Where are the edges of those puzzle pieces that find their way to weave together? So hopefully that insight in my story will give you some tips or ability to just open that in your field, to find that weaving in your own and letting it percolate in the background where you need to. It's definitely a big piece for each of us, because all of us are raised with different belief systems. And it's really those structures, those boxes around us, that we have to break out of and break free of in order to move through our ascension process. You cannot awaken when you have a box over you that's blocking the light. And you can't even see a lot of the boxes. But you find the questions, you have that raising, and when you hit one of those, ask. Always in the Bible, it was ask and you shall receive. And that is so true. When you ask, the universe can show you. If you don't ask or set the intention of wanting to know, it may or may not reveal unless it's actually your time to have that. And if it's revealing and you're not ready to see it consciously, you're just seeing it as a challenge. You're just seeing a roadblock that's saying, well, stop and go this way, or put that, totally shut that down, say no to it. Try not to say no to anything that's been part of your journey until you can see the weaving and why and where it fits in. So excited to be able to share that and have you guys find your levels of resolve with different systems and belief structures that are like at odds in your field. Allow them to find that merging, allow them to find that resolution. And if you missed this Quantum Flight program, I know I just got an instant message this morning from a gal who just found out about it, and I had to say, I'm apologize, the sphere is closed for this round. But if you feel and know, like, there's something that speaks to me every time she talks about that, send me your name, send me an email address, or a quick email, say, put me on the list to let me know when you do it again, so that I can notify you as soon as I calendar it, because maybe you won't be following Facebook for a while, or maybe you're off on a trip and you don't see stuff. Making sure that you get that notification so that you don't miss out if that's meant to be part of your journey. All right. Well, wishing everybody a great week. We are in really big energies. I know I am today just with the group, but you're going to feel some of those threads, and hopefully you felt some of the amplification coming off my field that will integrate into you and can be received and absorbed for your own expansion. I feel like almost like I'm a bursting core of a star doing this today. Just feel like there's massive amplification going out. So receive that, absorb it if you want to, and I will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Have a fabulous week, everybody. I love my dragon family. Share this out where you feel you need to. People don't have to be in our dragon family to absorb or receive the information that was shared today, because it really hits home for everybody in what they're trying to resolve as inner conflict right now. So share it out. Much love to y'all, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.